So good morning, everyone. So we're going to continue with circular motion today. So let's look at one more example of circular motion. Yesterday we talked about any motion which is not a straight path. So even though it is not tracing a full circle, at each instance it can be treated as equivalent to circle motion with instantaneous radius and instantaneous center. So we'll look at that one more example here. So here a particle is projected. This is a typical example of a projectile. But in a projectile is a curvilinear motion, is in form of a parabola. But at each instance of motion, it will have a radius of circular motion. It will also have a center also. So thus let's understand how we calculate instantaneous radius of equivalent circular motion. Okay, so here what we need to do here, so angle of projection is given, speed is given. We need to find instantaneous radius of circular motion soon after projection and at the highest point. And we definitely notice here this radius of will keep on changing. So let's say we want to find out soon after projection. So what are things we need to know to find out radius of circular motion? We need to know the velocity vector and we need to know the acceleration vector. Soon after projection, what is the velocity vector? What is the acceleration vector? That's what we need to find radius of circular motion. If I draw a figure, this is my velocity vector. This angle is 53 and magnitude is given as this is 30 meter per second and acceleration is downward, this is g. So this is what is given here. To find out which path, so again there's an acceleration here, we take the component of acceleration in tangential direction and centripetal direction or radial direction. So what is the tangential direction? Tangential direction is along the velocity itself. So if I look at this is a tangential direction, perpendicular this will be the centripetal direction. So let's take the components here. When we take the component, radius of circular motion at this instance will depend on AC. We use known. What is the centripetal acceleration here? So we need to find the component. That's the component what we need here. Find this component, okay, we need to resolve into two parts. What are two parts we need to resolve here? So this is something here. This becomes a tangential component, which is negative tangential. That's why it will slow down. Soon after projection, speed will decrease. And to find this angle here, so what we need to do, what is AC equal to? AC equal to, if this angle is theta, this will be 90 minus theta, and hence again, this also again will be theta. This angle will be theta. So what is a centripetal acceleration? It will equal to g cos theta, same angle theta, and this will be g sin theta. So g cos theta here, so we can easily find value of g cos theta, and g cos theta centripetal acceleration has to be equal to u square by r being this centripetal acceleration has to be u square by radius of circular motion, which is 150 meter. So what does it mean? At this particular instance, if I draw, this is the perpendicular to velocity direction at this instance. From here, if I mark a point at a distance of 150 meter, this point will become the center of instantaneous circular motion. And if I draw a kind of arc of a circle, at this instance, the path will be along this arc of a circle. So that's what we find. We just need to find AC value. Once we find AC, we equate centripetal acceleration is equal to square of the velocity by r. We get the value of radius of circular motion, which comes to 150 in this space if you substitute all the values. What about highest point of trajectory? So whenever we need to find radius, we need to think of two things: velocity vector and acceleration. At the highest point, this will be velocity. If angle of projection, I'm taking general terms. So at the highest point, if angle was theta, it will be u cos theta. And acceleration will be downwards. Here, g itself is centripetal acceleration. So compared to here, it was only g cos theta. Here, the centripetal acceleration has become more. So AC is equal to g, and that will be equal to u cos theta whole square by r. Let's say can I call this r dash. So this radius comes 32.4 meter. So you find here, so as it moves, is radius of path, but the radius of curve, here it is like a flat curve. By the time it reaches the top point, the radius of curvature becomes smaller. So radius of curvature, as it moves from point of projection to the highest point, keeps on decreasing. And you can get some variety of question. They can also ask what is the value of theta, so that at the highest point, the center of curvature is at the ground. So if you have this kind of question at the highest point, center of curvature is at the ground. How would you solve that question? If the center is curvature of the ground, we have calculated this, how we calculate here. The radius of curvature will be equal to u cos theta whole square by g. If the center of curvature is at the ground, this has to be equal to h max. And we can find this condition. So once we know how to find the radius of instantaneous radius of circular motion, we can solve some questions which are variations of the same. Now we move on to circular motion in horizontal plane, and a number of questions, number of variety of questions may come. And yesterday also we talked about a disc rotating like a gramophone disc. So something like this, the disc is rotating at it has 60 revolutions per minute. So first of all, I think some of you are not comfortable. How do we convert 60 revolutions per minute into omega? Revolution, each revolution is equal to 2 pi radian. So I want to convert it to radian. Each revolution I'll multiply by 2 pi, and minute is converted to second. 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. So multiply by 2 pi by 60, it converts into radian per second. So disk is rotating, and this is the side view. This is the disk. This is the axis about which is rotating. A body lies on the disk at a distance of 20 centimeter. So this distance is equal to 20 centimeter from here. And axis of rotation. What should be minimum value of a mu so that the body does not slip off the disk surface? So this is how it would look like if I look from the side. This is side view. If I look from the top view, this is axis of rotation. It is rotating like this. So if the object which is placed at a distance of 20 centimeter, if it does not slip, it means this also will undergo a circular motion. So essentially what it says is this object also has to undergo circular motion. And how do I define this motion? And exactly same thing happens in the car moving in a horizontal surface. We'll see that also. So this is a typical example. Sideways, it will always remain. So if I call this a y coordinate, as it moves, its y coordinate will not change, which means it is moving in a horizontal plane. Acceleration y direction is 0. Hence normal reaction. So this normal reaction will equal to mg, and mg is acting. But it has acceleration in horizontal plane. So any point at this point, which direction the acceleration is, acceleration must be toward center, which is equal to v square by r. If there is net acceleration acting towards center, the force also must be acting towards center, which is called centripetal force. So the question is, where does there has to be net force acting in the horizontal plane? Where from that, which force is acting in the horizontal plane here? See, if you look at this object, two forces are acting. What are two forces which are acting? Is weight and contact force. And contact force has two components. Normal component. Normal component cannot have component in the horizontal direction. So there's only friction force which can act in the horizontal direction, and which is needed for centripetal acceleration. So whenever object is placed, the centripetal acceleration or centripetal force is on account of friction force. The friction force acts as a centripetal force. If it is rotating slowly, if V is less, centripetal force required is less. So in that case, friction force also may not act to this full capacity. It will act as a static friction. And as we increase V, we try different constant velocity. I'm not saying acceleration. I'm talking about if we make the disk rotate at different constant value of V, as the V keeps increasing, the centripetal force will keep increasing. Friction force also will keep increasing. There's one particular constant angular velocity at which for that constant angular velocity omega, V will be equal to r omega. At that particular speed, what may happen? It may come into limiting state. What is limiting state? The speed is slightly higher, it will start slipping. So limiting state, when it's on the verge of slipping, the friction force, this term has to be equal to F max. That's the limiting state. And F max is equal to mu mg. So that's a condition, net force in the acting in the horizontal direction. And when it slips, what does slipping mean? If it slips mean, what will happen? See, it will not follow a circular path. If the object placed on the disk, if it slips, same thing will happen in the car also. If it slips, it will follow a path something like this. That's the slipping mean. Essentially what happened when it is slipping is radial distance will not be constant r, it will increase. So slipping happens, automatically it will move in a path which is having radius greater than r. So slipping implies radius becomes greater than the fixed distance. If r increases, automatically what will happen? Centripetal force required also will decrease. It will become equivalent to friction force. That's why the slipping takes place. Slipping takes place automatically in increases the value of radius of circular motion in which the object moves. So only gravity accounted for. Friction force acts as centripetal force. Acts of friction force. So what is the maximum value it can rotate? What is the maximum v value it can have? That's the equation. And same equation applies in case of object. See, in this case, what happened? Surface was in rotation, object was placed not slipping. Second case, we can take the surface is at rest, and this block is set into circular motion like car. So it doesn't matter. Now the car is still moving. If the car or object moves in circular path, it needs a centripetal force. In that case, also the surface need to provide the friction force, which acts as a centripetal force. So whether or not the surface moves, if this block moves in the circular path, this block must have a centripetal force. And in horizontal surface, the centripetal force will come only from the friction force. Okay. And if we have seen some cases, if the car is moving in a circular path, if in addition to circular motion, it also has a tangential acceleration. So net acceleration will be sum of vector sum of centripetal acceleration and tangential acceleration. So if a net force also will be the sum of the two. So in this case, what is the friction force? Friction force will be equal to net force, or the net force will be m into vector sum of centripetal acceleration plus tangential acceleration. That has to be equal to mu mg. That's the maximum value possible. This is the state at which it is about to slip. So these are two states. One is moving at when there's no tangential acceleration, m into ac is equal to mu mg in a limiting state. Or if it is moving without slipping, so this term mu mg is greater than equal to, or you can write it greater than equal to. This is the limiting state. I hope all of you understand what the limiting state is. Okay. Now move on to other case here. Yes, some good question.
Sir, if the velocity decreases, like for the car, then the friction force should still remain constant, right? Like it's not static friction, right?
Why is friction force acting? Let's say, so I calculated some speed v here. At a certain speed v, let's calculate this v was 20 meters per second. At this, it is equal to maximum friction force. What will happen if I move at speed of only 10 meters per second? In that case, same radius, another car comes with moves at the speed of 10 meters per second, same car, sir. So later on, one day it comes at the speed of 20 meters per second. And you know, sometimes when you move in high speed on a road, curved road, have you sometimes feel that your car is about to skid outside? So when you feel it is on the verge of skidding outside, what does it imply? It implies that friction force is equal to mu mg and no more friction force can act. But if you travel at half the speed, what will happen? In that case, centripetal force required is 1/4. It is the square of the velocity. In that case, friction force will not act equal to mu mg. The friction force is static friction. Friction force role is to make the tangential acceleration 0. So if the centripetal force required is less, friction force will adjust itself to that value of force. So friction force will adjust itself to whatever value we arrive at here. So just assume friction was not there. So what is the force which is required to make it move in that path? If object is moving in that particular path, it means this acceleration must be acting. If this acceleration must be acting, this corresponding force must be acting. Where from the force is going to come from the friction. So that's how we should look at it. Have you understood? If object is moving, we can calculate AC and AT. Based on that, we can calculate force must be acting. Only force which can act on a horizontal surface is friction. So the friction force is providing that force. That's how we need to understand. So that's important point. You need to understand only gravity and contact force. The only force which can act on the surface is friction. If the object moves in a circular path having centripetal and tangential acceleration may be 0 or non-zero. So there's a corresponding force. That force is friction force. That's simple application of laws of motion. Now coming to something like a conical pendulum. So there's a bit of difference from previous case and this case, and that's what we'll notice here. And that's what happens in case of bank rod also. This you can easily visualize if you tie a mass to a string, hold this point is rigid, and you take it a certain angle and give it per velocity tangential to this path. It may, if you give appropriate velocity, it will keep going in a conical, it will rotate like a conical pendulum. So it is undergoing uniform circular motion in horizontal plane. So just understand here also. So if I take here, which plane it is moving? So here also there's a plane. If connect all the points, all points lie in a horizontal plane, and there's a center here. So if I take this as coordinate system, the center of circle, if I take y coordinate of this object is not changing. It means it has no acceleration in y direction. That's what circular motion in horizontal plane mean. Y coordinate is not changing, and y coordinate we imply here is vertical. We call it is a Earth's magnetic, Earth's gravitational field related to that. So y coordinate is directed radially away from the center of Earth. That's what vertical we mean here. So in that case, let's again apply the condition here. So if it is moving the circular path, so when it is at this point, and let's say it is moving like this, which direction the net force must be acting? Moment I notice is a circular motion. Net force, y direction, no force. Net force is always directed towards center, and that is equal to, has to be equal to mv square by r being the radius of a circular path. What is the radius of circular path? Is this the radius of circular path? No, it is moving the circle. This is the center here, and this would be the radius of a circular motion. That's the radius. So any point, that's the force acting. Now question comes, where from the force comes? So every time, so moment we understand, if object is having acceleration in a particular direction, net force also must act in that direction. That's the laws of motion. And net force has to be, and if, yeah, so that's what we'll apply here. In horizontal plane, y coordinate remains constant. It means if I take y component of forces, it should add up to 0. And net force is always directed towards center, and net force is equal to mv square by r being the radius of circular motion. Don't take inclined and all, that's the radius of circular motion. Identify the center and mark the radius. So if I draw, so this is something, so let me apply laws of motion. We have understood what the acceleration is. Now we need to make sure the forces are meeting that acceleration condition. What are forces acting on the object? Two forces only, mg is acting and tension force. If this angle is theta from the vertical, every time from vertical is making angle theta, that's why it is making conical pendulum. So tension also will make angle theta from the vertical. So this tension also make angle theta from the vertical. So if I equate so the tension and gravity, in this case, what will happen here? Summation of forces in y component 0, if I write, t cos theta becomes equal to mg, right? Or t is equal to mg by cos theta. So tension force will always be equal to vertical component of t. So what we understand here, since the vertical component has to become 0, what does t adjust? See, force in the string can acquire any value depending on nature of motion. So T will adjust itself so that its vertical component balances the weight, and its horizontal component provides necessary centripetal force if it is moving in a circular path. So that is T. And what is centripetal force here? Centripetal force, which is the centripetal direction here? This is the centripetal direction. So what is component? T sine theta. So T tan theta, we substitute this value. So centripetal force, it comes equal to mg tan theta. So that's the force acting. And that force has to match m into acceleration in the centripetal direction. So mass into centripetal acceleration. We are just applying laws of motion. So it's, in case of 2D motion, we write summation of force in x direction equal to max. Here, what he had done, I have written summation of forces in the centripetal direction has to be equal to m into ac. That's what we have used, and that's the equation we arrive at. Okay, so at a particular level, so if an object is moving, if this theta is known, L is known, the radius is known, we know we can easily calculate what is the value of t and what must be the value of v. Both can be easily calculated from here, and will always match. So if we put a country, suppose we break this string, we put a kind of spring which can measure the value of tension, you will find whatever we calculate here, it will exactly match with that number. So basically, it is just coming from application of laws of motion. So same thing. So here also, what are the forces here compared to previous cases? What has happened here? Centripetal force is being provided by horizontal component of this tension force. Okay. So what is the velocity we come to from here? We arrive at velocity comes equal to root gr tan theta. Tan theta is the angle at which this force is inclined to vertical. And we can write omega also g tan theta by r. And what is radius here in this case is here? Radius will be equal to L sine theta. So basically, this only two forces. Very simple use of laws of motion for just two forces here. We can arrive at this condition. And sometime in the road also, we can use this equation. If car is moving on a road, if radius is r, if angle of banking is theta, what is the speed at which it can move? Without requiring any friction, it comes from the same equation. I'll come to that also. So in case of banking, what happens is, suppose the road is banked at an angle theta here. If road is banked at an angle theta, here the tension is, the normal force is coming because of tension. There the force will come because of the normal reaction. It remains same. So in place of T, what comes there? N. And angle theta depends on angle of banking. So any particular road, when it is banked at angle theta, so once we know tan theta, we can find when car moves at that speed, no friction force is required. And what happens if car moves faster? See, just imagine here also. Suppose this particular velocity, when this mass is moving this particular velocity, it moves in a horizontal plane. Suppose suddenly we increase the velocity. What do you think will happen if we increase the velocity of this object, which otherwise was going in a circular motion? What will happen if the speed was slightly increased suddenly? If you increase the sky suddenly, if you just read from the equation, if V increases, what has to happen? For this equation to match here, the theta has to increase. So a moment if V becomes higher, the theta has to increase, and accordingly what happens? Radius also increase. Radius also linked to theta. What is radius equal to? L sine theta. So if speed becomes higher, the whole thing will move up. It will tend to move up. As the speed increases, it tends to move up. That's what happens in case of banked road also. The banked road, I'm not spending too much of time on banked road. So banked road, the car is moving. If car is moving at the particular speed V matched with this, it will move it will not tend to move up and down, no friction will act. But if the speed of car is greater than that V, it will tend to move up. It will tend to move up means it will tend to move up means it will force in the vertically upward direction will become greater than force in the downward direction. When it is moving up, because road friction may be present, if it is tending to move up, friction will start acting in the downward direction. That's what happens. When it moves slower than the speed, it will tend to move down, friction will act upwards. So when velocity of car is less than this, what we call as velocity at which the forces are balanced, no friction is required, let me call VO. If VC is less than VO or equilibrium velocity, friction will act upwards. If it speeds faster, we understand here when it moves speed, if any speed is higher, theta will tend to increase. And this is something what is happening here. And car will tend to skid out. In that case, friction will act downwards. Some more question on this. And this question also I'll just theoretically discuss. This question S.C. Burma and some other books also will find. And this kind of question you see when you see merry-go-round. So those who go to exhibitions and some of the other arena also, you may find something like this. And you may have horses and all those things, people might be sitting here. And you notice if you closely observe, initially when it is at rest, it will remain vertical. As it will start rotating, as omega keeps increasing, you will notice the theta also keeps increasing, and the speed at which each object, each person is moving also keeps increasing. Theta will keep increasing. So all of you might have observed, and somebody may recall what I'm mentioning here. So suppose there's a rod here, and you can make this kind of setup. So if you have something which can rotate, you make this rod, suspend the thing, and if you set up a constant velocity, you will find it make a constant angle theta and keep going around in a circular path. If theta is constant, it implies that height also is constant. Constant theta implies y coordinate is not changing. If theta is constant, this object is moving in a horizontal plane. That's what we need here. So suppose this question is given like this, in the L is there, theta is there, and mass M is there. Again, just let's understand in terms of variable. Omega, L, theta, m. How are they related? Let's look at that also. So moment is spot. If I ask you what is the nature of motion of this object as, you should define the nature of motion. This is undergoing circular motion, uniform circular motion in horizontal plane. That itself solves part of the question. So if it is going uniform circular motion in horizontal plane, so this where the center is, this is where the center is. And if we take vertical direction, no force must be acting, and any instance force must be, net force must be directed towards center. So again, that becomes pretty simple. So again, it says circular motion in horizontal plane, y coordinate remains constant, summation force in y direction is 0. Force is always directed towards center. So net force should be directed towards center at all instances. And the net force has to equal to mv square by r. R is the speed, instantaneous velocity magnitude of this object. And what is r here? R is radius of a circular path. When it moves a circular path, what is the radius it traces out? Not this radius, this is the total radius. So if we have to look at this expression, if this angle is theta, what would radius be equal to? That is will be equal to L plus L sine theta. That will become the radius. And then now apply this laws of motion. At this particular instance, applying at this particular instance, what are the laws of motion? What are forces acting? Two forces. Mg is acting and tension is acting. Exactly same as previous question. And what is this angle theta? So we look at the free body diagram is identical to previous question. So what is the centripetal force? T will become equal to mg by cos theta. And centripetal force will become equal to mg tan theta. That is equal to mv square by r. The only thing, radius of circular motion, that will be the radius of circular motion in this particular case. And vertical component will balance. And centripetal force, the equation again comes to this. This is the equation. Whenever two forces acting, mg and another angle at theta, its horizontal component comes to mg tan theta, and that becomes equal to mv square by r or mr omega square, depending on what is given. And what is r? We find the radius, we substitute, we get our answer. This particular question is from SC Verma. The numbers are not so easy to calculate, so I'm skipping its actual calculation. But you can actually do that calculation, arrive at the answer. It's fairly straightforward. Okay, so what is V equal to? Again, root GR tan theta, as long as this is same. Now coming to another variation here, and this perhaps will give you some understanding about what the roads are. And some of you might have seen this cycle racing track we call velodrome and all. So where the track is something like curved like this. Even some of the car race also where the cars go at extremely high speed, the surface is something curving up like this. And you'll try and understand what happens here. So something like this, let's understand this hemispherical ball of radius r. So either the ball could be rotating or not rotating. That doesn't make a difference. What is important? This object must be rotating. So object could be rotating, two ways it can be rotating. Either the surface is smooth, this object you have given a velocity. Suppose you keep object on the surface and just imagine you take a small piece and you have a smooth hemispherical ball, you give a horizontal tangential velocity. And if, suppose we don't give any velocity, what will happen is just slide down. And if you give very high velocity, it will just go up and jump out. So any particular velocity only, it will undergo a circular motion. So it doesn't depend whether ball is in motion or not. What has to happen, in whichever way, we are taking the case when there's a small object which is undergoing circular motion in horizontal plane. If it will undergo circular motion in horizontal plane, angle it is subtending at the center with vertical remain constant, y coordinate remains constant. So let's look at that. So it is undergoing circular motion. So if it is rotating with the ball, ball is having angular velocity omega, it fixes up angular velocity of this object also. Is rotating with one axis, angular velocity omega, a particle mass on frictionless surface also rotating with same omega. The particle is a height h from the bottom of the ball. Where is the particle? This is at the height of h from the bottom of the ball. Can we find a relationship between h and omega? So what it basically says, the height at which this object would be, if we change omega, the equilibrium position of this object also will keep changing. So these two quantities are related. And I can give one more example. This is a hemispherical bowl. Just for a moment, just forget it's a hemispherical bowl. Just think of the gray line here. It is, what is the gray line looks like? What is the shape of the gray line here, Tejas?
So
what is this gray line looks like?
looks like a parabolic shape.
I'll hit you on your head. Right now, this is hemisphere. So hemisphere, the boundary of hemisphere. Yeah, what it will look like?
Well,
it would be a semicircle. It's a semicircular ring.
Okay, so yes,
it's a smooth ring. And just imagine you take a piece of wire bent in form of a semicircle of radius r, and then you can slip in a small ring here. And smooth ring, what will happen is the ring will come down at the bottom. But if you start rotating this semicircular ring with angular velocity omega, does it make sense? The faster you rotate, higher this ring will go. It will come to a state of equilibrium at a particular height. So when you are rotating the semicircular ring about its axis, this object also is being rotated. And this is something I hope it makes intuitive sense. Depending on what the angular velocity omega is, it will tend to go higher and higher. So you can calculate its height for different value of omega. Is this making some sense? Parabola man?
No, sir. It's making some sense, sir. Yes.
Okay. So does it still look like parabola? It's looking like semicircle now.
It's semicircle now.
It's semicircle now. Yes. And you can visualize what I'm saying now?
Yes, I can.
You can visualize, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is rotated. Okay. So Halad, you have any question?
So since it's frictionless, how do we know that it will go outside?
See, basically, okay, we'll come to that part also. We are taking which case we are taking smooth. What kind of surface? It is a smooth surface. Okay. So what if this semicircular ring is smooth and we have slipped a ring? So Halad, even before I ask, if you don't know anything about physics, you have seen nature around you. So do you think if I take a semicircular ring, smooth ring, on which I slip a small bead kind of thing, and if start rotating semicircular ring about a vertical axis, do you think the bead will remain, if I put the bead here, will it stay at equilibrium in some position, or will it always come to the bottom? What do you think will happen?
It will be in the equilibrium position.
Will it always see if I rotate? Do you think if I rotate it may remain equilibrium at a particular point here? Does it sound logical or not? So can you visualize if I are rotating, I find the ring is at a particular place, is not slipping down, is still despite there's no friction. Now then we'll try to understand why it is not slipping down and why it is staying at a particular place. It's staying at a particular place if this ring is smooth. So on this small bead, how many forces will act, Halad?
2 forces.
2 forces. Which are the 2 forces which will act?
Contact force and gravitational force.
Contact, very good. It will contact force and the gravity. So gravity will act, of course, downwards. And contact force, if it is smooth, it will act only in the normal direction. Which direction contact force will act? Contact force will act like this. So actually, is it saying, does it mean that it is staying here? See, what is contact force here? If it is, reason it is not slowing down, because when it is slipped onto a semicircular ring, it is made to go circular motion. So this ring also undergoing circular motion. If it is undergoing circular motion, it must have a centripetal force, and it will not slide downwards if upward force and downward force are equal. So let's analyze this motion in the vertical direction and then in the horizontal plane. So there's a normal force here. The normal force, it becomes equal to, and why normal force is becoming equal to weight here? Because if it is an horizontal, since it is made to move in a circular path, the horizontal component of normal force has to become equal to mr omega square, r being this distance. That's one way you can analyze. What is the second way you can analyze? Second way you can analyze, you understand something like centrifugal force. If you stand there, always facing a particular point on the ring. So you are, as an observer, also start rotating with the ring with same angular velocity omega. If I start rotating with the same angular velocity, the person who is rotating with angular velocity omega, in that frame of reference, is that frame of reference inertial or non-inertial? See, if you just stand in a room and you start rotating, see the way some ballet dancer and all rotate, every object will start looking as if it is going circular motion. But is there any real force? Are they really going into circular motion? No. So that also is a non-inertial frame. If you apply laws of motion in that frame of reference, you need to apply pseudo force. That pseudo force is called centrifugal force. So if I look from that perspective also, in that frame of reference, this small bead will appear to be in a state of equilibrium. In that case, I have to apply pseudo force. In that case, mg will be acting downwards. Normal reaction will be acting like this, and pseudo force mr omega square will act. And all three net force, all three put together has to be 0. So something like this here, whichever way you can analyze, either you can do from normal frame of reference, ground frame, and we can also, if I observe from ground frame, I will see it going in a circular motion, something similar to the conical pendulum. And reason why it will go into circular pendulum, just very quickly, let's see that part also. So when I look at this path here, so this part here, ring, see if I draw a tangent, it is, this bead is equivalent to having placed on the surface, making angle theta from the horizontal. This if you draw a tangent here. Okay, again, if I take xy coordinate, let's look at that. So again, it is undergoing circular motion in horizontal plane. Either I can, three cases I take, all three cases lead to the same thing. What are three cases here? It is a hemispherical ball which is rotating with omega, and this object also rotating with omega without slipping. And result, this object is rotating with angular velocity omega. Second case, this ball is at rest. This object is given a velocity, and this is undergoing circular motion with angular velocity omega. So ball can be at rest. Third case taken, it is a semicircular ring, and this kind of bead which is slipped on, and I'm rotating this circular ring with angular velocity omega, and the bead is not going up and down. It is remaining at the same height. It's not slipping with reference to ring. All three cases, the forces acting, if I draw the free body diagram, all three cases only two forces acting. Which are the two forces? Normal reaction and weight. And since normal reaction weight, and is all three cases motion is circular motion horizontal plane. If applied those conditions, radius of circulation motion will be equal to, if the radius r, if this angle is theta, this radius of circular motion will be equal to capital R sine theta. So I am writing a small r as a radius of circular motion. Force must always directly be centered. So here also, again, if I draw this free body diagram, this is again same as before. So again, n will become mg by cos theta, and its centripetal component will again come equal to mg tan theta, and mg tan theta has to be equal to mr omega square. R is what? Radius of circular motion. So this equation I get here. Let me simplify this equation. What is omega square? Omega square is equal to g by, see, sine theta term cancel out. What is left is cos theta, and the r term has come here. So omega square is equal to g by r cos theta. So what is r cos theta? R cos theta is this height, and this height is nothing but r minus h. So this is the relationship between omega and h, and we can easily solve such question. And what would be the velocity, instantaneous velocity, if angular velocity is omega? Velocity will equal to radius of circular motion into omega, not capital R omega, it will be equal to small r omega. That's the velocity. Okay, so again, so whatever velocity you have calculated for a particular value of theta, so if I keep this object at this point and give exactly this velocity, if the surface is actually smooth, it will keep going motion like this. But if I give a velocity greater than this, it will move up and slide out. And if I give lesser velocity, it will go down and slightly spiral. And if I give zero velocity, it will slide down. So I have to understand, so for a given position, for a given height, which is making certain angle theta from the vertical, a particular speed is given to the object. It will, inside a hemispherical ball, it will undergo circular motion in horizontal plane. Is clear with everyone? Okay, Hemant, have you understood?
Yes, sir.
What have you understood?
That we see a centrifugal force, which is a pseudo force.
See, even before we start also, see what we said here, just to analyze this question again, to recap how we should think. Again, I'm going back, how we think. See, what if I observe from the ground, if you are standing away from the platform, what kind of motion this object will have? We don't know. We think it will go like this, some spiral kind of thing. It will have a very odd trajectory, and which is difficult to analyze. But is there any other frame of reference from where motion becomes easier to understand?
We see from the rotating frame of reference.
Rotating frame of reference. So you understand why we choose rotating frame of reference? Because it makes solution of problem easier. So where you place frame of reference, you stand at the center and you rotate with the same angular velocity as the surface here. So if you are rotating and if you choose, if you are facing this particular groove, and so always it will look in the same path. So it will appear, this ball will not appear going like this. This ball will appear to be moving only in that direction. It makes it simpler. That's why, so whenever we choose non-inertial frame of reference, we choose only because motion of the object is easier to understand in non-inertial frame of reference. That's what I are doing. So origin is at the origin, facing the groove and rotating with the surface. In that case, it will appear to be moving outwards. So now what you're doing, why, and when we use rotating frame of reference, in this case also, since motion is involved, you need to apply Newton's law of motion. Rotating frame of reference is non-inertial frame of reference. In this case, we need to apply what you call as a centrifugal force. So centrifugal force is mr omega square. What is it? M is the mass of object to which you are applying Newton's law of motion. R is the distance from the rotating frame of reference, and omega is the angular velocity of rotation of frame of reference. And this is the force, and this is pseudo force which will act. Now I can apply laws of motion. And so if this is the force which is mr omega square, mass is m, it will give you a radial acceleration. That's what I calculated. Radial acceleration will equal to r omega square. We understand as it moves farther and farther from the observer, its acceleration will keep on increasing. It's not a constant acceleration. So if I have to calculate any parameter, motion parameter, I have to use calculus. So here A is equal to V dV by dr, since the relationship required between r and velocity. So again, we do this limits here. Limits is pretty simple here. We have at when it is a distance A, its velocity is 0. When it is distance L, velocity is V. We integrate within this limit and we get our answer. I hope most of you followed this question. Typical example of pseudo force in rotating frame of reference. How to apply, which direction does it act? Pseudo force acts in the radially outward direction. So this object will have certain position. So this r vector is the position of the object from the rotating frame of reference, and that's the value of r, and force will act radially outward direction. Okay, so one more case here on this. Let's read and okay, let's see whether we can finish it or not. Okay, so I think we can do that question also. See, the two strings, there's a vertical rod here. Two strings of length is equal to 0.5 meter. There's a string here. This is string length also is 0.5 meter. There's another string also length is 0.5 meter. And this block is mass is 2 kg. And the ends are attached to point A and B. And these 2 points also 0.5 meter. So basically all three of them are forming an equilateral triangle. So you can imagine this rod, we can rotate, these are connected to rods, and we can make this mass rotate. So we can really give a, now in this particular case, you can give a velocity perpendicular to this. And if we give some velocity, it will keep going in a circular motion. And what we are saying here, so we have given a vertical pole, and this mass is rotated with an angle. Either we rotate the pole, we have four fixed pole, and we rotate the pole. So suppose you take a long rod kind of thing, attach something like this, and rotate the long rod with the angular velocity such a way that this also start rotating with the same angular velocity. So we have set this object also to rotate with angular velocity omega, which is 7 radian per second. In that case, if this is the mass, can we calculate what is the ratio? You can actually calculate the value of tension also. What is the tension in this string? What is the tension in this string? And this calculation also is fairly simple. So can anyone identify what is the method I'm going to use to solve this question, or what the method you should use to solve this question? Fairly simple. If I look at this, since the string remains taut, this angle remains 60 degrees. It means if I take vertical direction up here, it will move in a circular path in horizontal plane. So this also is an example of circular motion in horizontal plane. This will be the radius of circular motion. Okay, so if I draw the free body diagram, again, let's use the condition of circular motion. Mass of m is m. So this is the free body, this is T1 acting, this is 280 acting, angle is 6 stars, this is 30 degree, this is 30 degree, this is mg. Summation of force in y direction has to be 0. Motion is in the horizontal plane. So what are forces here? So this is plus T1 sine 30 minus T2 sine 30 is equal to mg. So if I put those values here, sine 31 by 2, m is equal to 2 kg, T1 minus T2 is equal to 4g. That's one condition. What is second condition? This mass is having centripetal acceleration. This is centripetal direction. So net force acting in this direction, centripetal direction, has to be equal to mr omega square. So what a net force is? Mg doesn't have a component. So T1 plus T2 cos 30 is equal to mr omega square. What is r equal to? If this length is L and this angle is 30, okay, so it will be L cos 30. So L cos 30 is the radius circular motion and omega square. We put those values, we find T1 plus T2 is equal to 49. And then we can easily find the value of T1, T2, and we can find the ratio also. Whichever way it is there, we can easily find the number. So this comes equal to, yeah, so ratio comes equal to, so you can find the ratio. So T1 plus T2 divided by T1 minus T2 is 49 divided by 4g, which comes equal to 5 by 4. Okay, so I'll stop here. I think this rest all will continue. Today we don't have work session, is it? No?